there, Cosmic Cats. Welcome back to Musicland Stories, coming to you live from the origin point for all music and adventure stories in the known universe, and some of the unknown ones. And we're here at the Musicland Concert Hall. I'm your trusted narrator, the conductor, and it is so good to have you back. Now, where were we? I guess it's more of a when than a where, isn't it? Because music's all about time. No one knows that better than our dear friend Mo. You remember Mo, the only girl on Syncopia whose dual hearts beat in time together? She had a chance run-in with the legendary Orchestra Obscura, who happened to be looking to replace their missing drummer. Tutankhamun invited her to join the band. If she could find the right groove, that is. But first, she had to break the news to her family. She sat at the dinner table while her parents and her siblings stared at her through the steam rising off of her father's famous sizzling cymbal stew, Mo's favorite. I love a good Syncopian cymbal stew, though it makes my stomach feel a little offbeat, if you get my drift. Her mother waited with the ladle right over the stew pot. All eyes were on Mo. But what was she supposed to say? That the Orchestra Obscura had invited her to join them as the drummer on the next leg of their great galactic tour? Or that she couldn't take them up on the offer because someone, that would be me, had taken Krupakon's drumsticks, her ticket off her home planet? Poor Mo. She finally got the very thing she'd always wanted, her whole family listening to her. Like, really listening. Totally in sync. And now, she wished their rhythms would whisk them off to another task like usual. But that wasn't about to happen. Because tonight was a special night. It was the silent night. One night out of every year, all the offbeat rhythms of every heart on Syncopia lined up just right. You're from Earth, so you have something called a winter solstice, the longest night of the year. Syncopia's silent night is like that. All the arrhythmic lives settle into a rare moment of quantized quiet and calm. To celebrate, Syncopians fill the night with horrible dissonant noise, the same way folks on your planet might fill the darkest days with light. Just before Mo could speak, a chorale of cacophonous carolers crashed through the front door of the house, singing discordant hymns that filled the quiet with noise. It's a silent night tradition. Syncopians find it comforting. For Mo, the chaos added to the pressure of her grand announcement. She could barely think with all the ruckus. She needed an escape, to find a quiet, steady rhythm where she could choose her own path. She covered her ears, kicked back her chair, and ran out the door, crashing through the carolers, which only enhanced their screechingly beautiful ruckus. Outside, Mo ran and ran and ran, hoping to find a reprieve from the sensory overload. The fresh air helped, but it wasn't enough. She could smell the traditional holiday treats, making her nostalgic for home. Her mouth watered for a taste of caramel-covered earplugs as she passed a group of giggling kids lying on the ground. She watched as they flailed their limbs, making pictures of percussion angels in the stardusted grass. A smile slipped across her face, and then, BAM! A frantic and distracted Mo collided full speed with a bearded troubadour in a tall-rimmed hat with what looked like 5 arms. It was hard to tell, since they were knotted around him on the ground. Always look both ways when you cross the street, and in all the other directions, too. Mo reached her arm out to help the troubadour up, but she wasn't sure which arm to grab. It's all good. Not even the worst crash I've had today. He lifted himself up with 3 arms while the others brushed his blazer off. Then he extended a hand for Mo to shake. "Professor Pandemonium of the famous Cosmic Krew. Me and my band were surfing the galactic waves on the way to a gig when this planet came out of nowhere and swerved in front of us. Even if we had brakes, we couldn't have hit them in time." Mo smiled. Another musician? Not a lot of bands came through Syncopia. It wasn't really the most convenient tour stop. And now she'd met 2 groups in one day. Maybe that was a sign. Though she wasn't sure what it was a sign of. Maybe this 5-armed performer could help her make up her mind. She decided to ask if he knew the Orchestra Obscura. "Of course," Professor Pandemonium replied. "We've hitched some rides in their wake. They're a funky bunch for sure. Could use a new drummer, though." Another sign. Mo glanced around. "Where's the rest of your crew?" "We parked over there." Professor Pandemonium's 5 arms pointed in 5 different directions. "I went to see if there was any place to play as long as we're here. But, well, sounds like y'all got enough noise to deal with already." Which is how I got turned around. Normally, I just follow the sound waves, you know? But there's a lot of different vibes going around here. Another sign. As much as Mo needed time to think, maybe this could be the downbeat she was looking for. It took a little work to figure out where exactly the professor had parked, but soon enough, they were off to navigate the discordant holiday delights of Mo's hometown. They danced down the street through the Silent Night Festival, finding their own 4 on the floor and the breaths beneath the noise. The professor's oscillating instincts helped them to avoid another flock of cacophonous carolers, though it guided them right to the street food vendors selling those delicious snare drum pancakes. They got swept up in the parade around the towering timpani lined with clusters of candles that flickered in frantic patterns to frighten off spider sparrows and brighten up the stillness of the night. At the end of the parade route, they found the Kosmic Krew ship, a beaten-up green school bus with rocket wings, crashed into the side of an abandoned metronome warehouse. "Thanks for all your help, kid," the professor said. "Enjoy the rest of your wacky holiday. Maybe our frequencies will cross again someday." Mo said goodbye to Professor Pandemonium. She waited as he inspected the outside of his ship, as she wasn't entirely convinced that it was going to be able to fly in that condition. Professor Pandemonium patted the hood and shouted to the crew inside the ship. "All right, crew. Time to find ourselves another wave and set a course for Trancelore." Mo's ears perked up. Trancelore. The name resonated with the beating of her heart. Mo had found the sign she'd been looking for. Mo's dad was waiting when she got home, with the pot of stew still on the table. The rest of her family had finished their meals and ran off with the rest of the pots and pans to join a crew of carolers. Or perhaps find some friends for a game of warbling tops. They'd all be out of sync again soon enough, and everything would go back to normal. Everything, that is. Except for Mo. "We were worried," her dad said. "Because parents always worry." "I know," Mo replied. "Because kids always know." Her dad passed her a bowl of stew, which smelled absolutely amazing and reminded her that she hadn't eaten anything all day. Just as her spoon was about to dip in, Professor Pandemonium came bounding down the hallway and into the kitchen. He snatched Mo's bowl in one hand, her spoon with another, and as he shoveled stew into his mouth, he stuck a third hand out to shake hands with Mo's father. "Professor Pandemonium of the Kosmic Krew. Perhaps you've heard of us?" Mo's dad had not heard of the Kosmic Krew. He was a good dad, though not a particularly cool one. As Professor Pandemonium slurped away at the sizzling cymbal stew, Mo caught her father up on what happened. How a dashing and charming individual had snagged Krupakon's drumsticks from her and run off to Trancelore. How, without the drumsticks, she couldn't join the Orchestra Obscura, and how she'd literally run into Professor Pandemonium, who, as fate would have it, was on his way to Trancelore. I say fate, but I had something to do with it. I didn't want to steal the spotlight from Mo. This is her adventure, after all. Fortunately, her father understood what she had to do. He gave her a hug, wished her luck, and sent her on her way. Professor Pandemonium gave him a great big 5-armed hug. He, in turn, gave the professor a napkin to wipe his face. Mo was beaming as she stepped onto the Kosmic Krew's galactic green bus, eager to embark on her first journey off Syncopia. So you can imagine her surprise when she looked around and realized there was no one else on the ship. "Professor," she asked, "where's the band?" "Right here." Mo turned around to find Professor Pandemonium standing in front of a wall-sized synthesizer with 4 strange-looking puppets on his arms. "Meet the Kosmic Krew. Right there's Janice," he said, using his last hand to point. "That's Snoop there next to Wiggly Wallace. And last but certainly not least, we got Bedlam. But you'd better buckle up, because it's his turn to drive." Mo had a lot of questions. I'm sure you do too. But before anyone could ask any of them, the professor's arm, or rather Bedlam, flew to the wall and began to turn an oscillation knob. There was a sudden swirling sound, and Mo found herself flying backwards as the ship blasted off into the depths of outer space. Mo's time with the Kosmic Krew was off to a turbulent start. You'll have to wait until next time to find out how the rest of the trip went. I think it's safe to say that Mo's life isn't going to settle into a steady rhythm anytime soon. Musicland Stories is a collaboration between Starglow Media and Double Elvis. Executive producers from Double Elvis are Jake Brennan and Brady Sadler. Executive producers from Starglow Media are Jed Baker and Agrenish A. Palmer. This episode of Musicland Stories was written by Tom Dunn. Alessandro Santoro is our showrunner. Narration by me, Nikki Lynette. Original score by Jonathan Warman. Story editing by Zeph Lundy and Bob Pro. And episode mix by Colin Fleming. Grown-ups, you can find more ad-free fun for the whole family by subscribing to Starglow Plus on Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. See you soon, Cosmic Cats. Until next time, Conductor out.